people, other issues that they may have. Some of their population coming here has been good for them. We give them aid money, and I think Donald Trump's right. You withhold the aid money, and guess what? You put in a tariff. They're going to get more concerned about it. Makes sense to me.
I have to say, I'm just astonished by the collective insanity that seems to have marked the conservative movement over the last month.
What's astonishing about it? I've been saying secure the borders for years and years and years.
I don't mean secure the border. I mean that Donald Trump, who has put forward no plan whatsoever except to pretend that Mexico is going to pay for a war, is being taken seriously.
That's not true. Wait a minute. What you're saying is not true. He said he would build a wall. He said that he would build it expeditiously. He said that he would help get Mexico to pay for it. He would either force them through not giving them aid or through tariffs. That's a specific plan. He talked about health care savings accounts for Obamacare as an alternative.
I think the objections are that you have a man in a Republican debate who praised single payer. You have a man still talking about funding Planned Parenthood. You have a man who has flip-flopped perhaps on the wealth tax, on gun control, a man who in any other circumstances would have been laughed at for the primary. If you look back to when Mitt Romney was running, flip-flops that were not remotely as substantive as Donald Trump's.
For one thing, I mean, maybe I'm the wrong person to be appalled by this, because there was one thing Mitt Romney flip-flopped on, one thing, abortion, and I don't think that's a big deal. We're supposed to be trying to win converts over. It isn't really true, the things you listed off just now there, Charles. I mean, it's an exaggeration of his earlier positions. He seems very clear to me. And consistency, I mean, I don't think voters go out and think, well, he's been consistent for 20 years on this. He has certainly been consistent on caring about illegal immigration. He has long before now. It isn't a flip-flop on Planned Parenthood. He's not a politician. He's not familiar with all of the deceptive ways Planned Parenthood will sneak through funding for abortion. And so when he said, look, I fund the other health care things Planned Parenthood does, but I wouldn't fund the abortion part, people pointed out, well, they just segregate the funds. You really are funding the abortion. He said, okay, fine. If they do any abortions, no funding for Planned Parenthood. That isn't inconsistent. That is a slight change to a position, because he hasn't spent his life being a policy wonk. But he's coming up with more specific answers on things than I think the other guys are.
Hold on. Firstly, it's not a slight change when you go from being pro-choice to pro-life when you run in the primary. But he actually changed his mind this week. I mean, he said on this show that he was talking about. He said on this show, I think yesterday, maybe the day before, that he was fine with the progressive income tax. When you reach a certain point, you should pay more, he said. The day before, he'd suggested he was in favor of a flat tax. Literally 24 hours before. He's making it up as he goes along, and we're all falling for it for some reason.
He isn't making it up as he goes along. The wealth taxes, I mean, as he explained to Hannity, he said, look, I'm a rich man. If you look at what the national debt was back then, why shouldn't we? I can pay it off personally. Now the national debt is so huge, I couldn't pay it off personally. This isn't some huge, shocking flip-flop. I think it's a far more appalling flip-flop, except it isn't a flip-flop. It's a lie that almost every one of the other Republicans running keeps insisting that, yes, they want to do something about illegal immigration, and oh boy, we are going to secure the border first. And Rubio promised for, 3 years that he would not vote for an amnesty bill until that border was secure. And we read the bill, first step, everyone's amnesty. Second step, they all get to bring their relatives. When do we get to the wall? Well, never, because you can build a tunnel under the wall. These are flip-flops that aren't flip-flops. They are direct lies to the American people. What you're illustrating or pointing out are just someone whose life has not been consumed with politics, but no one cares about that. He does have serious ideas.
That's certainly one way of putting it, Anne. That is certainly one way of putting it. What I'm talking about is a man who decided a few moments ago that he wanted to be a Republican. Picked up a whole host of... That isn't true.
He's been a Republican since 1988. He was at the Republican National Convention talking like a conservative. He likes guns.
Done very well as a Republican, given he had no Republican positions. He cozied up to Hillary Clinton and he gave the Democrats a bunch of money.
Of course he does. He's a businessman. That's the silliest complaint. Of course he does. He's at least been a Republican since 1988. He's pro-gun. As far as I know, he's never been anti-gun. What I'm talking about, you're catching him on these teeny tiny little developments of a position.
I think we're moving our positions around what Donald Trump says. He was in favor, on the record, of an assault weapons ban. Is that now pro-gun?
No, but a lot of people. So was Republican Congress. So was John Kasich. Why are you all denouncing John Kasich? John Kasich actually voted for it, and he knew something.
He's got to go.
A new video exposes just how low
they can't keep up. They can't keep it. They can't keep that segment going.